Em ơi, lấy ngói đây.
Ném lên đi anh.
Được rồi, em làm từ từ thôi.
Xong rồi xuống ăn cơm nhá.
Vâng.
Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today's story is a heartwarming and emotional journey about love, dedication, and the simple happiness of building a life together. After years of living in a small and modest house, Tieu Hue never expected that CEO Tuan Anh had been secretly preparing a beautiful surprise for her. With months of hard work and careful planning, he built a spacious, bright, and comfortable new home where they could start a better future together. When Tieu Hue first saw the house, she was deeply moved. It was not just a beautiful place to live, but a symbol of Tuan Anh's love and his promise to give her a peaceful and happy life. In the days that followed, the two of them worked side by side to turn the new house into a warm home. From arranging furniture to cooking meals together in their new kitchen, every small moment brought them closer and filled the house with laughter and love. One quiet evening, sitting together on the porch and looking at the small garden they had planted, Tieu Hue realized that the house was more than a gift. It was the beginning of a new chapter in their lives, a future built with trust, care, and true companionship. If you enjoyed this touching story about love and family, please support our channel by liking the video, leaving a comment, and subscribing for more emotional and inspiring stories. Your support helps us continue creating meaningful content for everyone. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next story. For many years, Tieu Hue had lived in a small, simple house at the edge of the town. The roof leaked when it rained, the walls were old, and the space was so narrow that even moving furniture around felt difficult. Yet she never complained. She believed that as long as she had someone who truly loved her, a small house could still feel warm. But deep in his heart, CEO Tuan Anh always remembered every moment she struggled in that old home. While she never asked for anything, he quietly promised himself that one day he would give her a better life. That promise slowly turned into a secret plan. For months, Tuan Anh worked tirelessly. During the day, he handled meetings, company projects, and important business decisions as the CEO of a large corporation. At night, he checked construction plans, spoke with architects, and personally chose the materials for a new house he was building for Tieu Hue. He wanted everything to be perfect, not luxurious in a flashy way, but warm, comfortable, and filled with light. He chose large windows so sunlight could brighten every corner. He picked wooden floors because he knew Tieu Hue loved the natural feeling of wood beneath her feet. Every detail carried his quiet love. Finally, the day arrived. Early in the morning, Tuan Anh drove Tieu Hue to the outskirts of town, where the air was fresh and peaceful. She looked at him curiously along the way, wondering why he seemed both excited and nervous. When the car stopped in front of a beautiful new house, she froze in surprise. The house stood proudly under the gentle morning sunlight. It was spacious and elegant, but still simple and welcoming. A small garden surrounded it, with fresh green grass and young flower plants just beginning to grow. The white walls reflected the sunlight softly, and the large glass windows sparkled like mirrors in the morning light. Tuan Anh stepped out of the car and walked around to open the door for her. "Tieu Hue," he said softly, "come see something." She slowly followed him, her eyes full of confusion. When they stopped in front of the house, she looked at him, unsure of what to say. "Whose house is this?" she asked quietly. Tuan Anh smiled, his eyes gentle but slightly emotional. "Ours," he replied. For a moment, she thought she had heard him wrong. "Ours," she repeated. He nodded and gently took her hand and placed a small key in her palm. "I built it for you, for us." Tieu Hue stood still, completely speechless. Her eyes slowly filled with tears as she looked at the house again, the wide doorway, the bright windows, the peaceful garden. She had never imagined living in such a beautiful place. More than the house itself, what touched her heart was knowing how much effort Tuan Anh had put into this surprise. When she finally stepped inside, sunlight poured through the windows and spread across the polished wooden floor. The living room was spacious and clean, with soft colors that made the whole place feel warm and calm. Tieu Hue covered her mouth with her hand, trying to hold back her tears. "You really built this for me?" she whispered. Tuan Anh stepped closer and gently held her hand again. "It's not just a house. It's the home where I want to spend the rest of my life with you." At that moment, standing in the quiet living room filled with golden sunlight, Tieu Hue realized that this house was more than a gift. It was a promise of love, comfort, and a future they would build together. In the days that followed, the new house slowly came to life with warmth, laughter, and the small, joyful moments of everyday living. Although the house was already beautiful, Tieu Hue and CEO Tuan Anh wanted to arrange everything together, turning the empty rooms into a real home filled with their memories. Every morning, sunlight streamed through the large windows, lighting up the wooden floors and giving the house a peaceful, welcoming feeling. Tieu Hue woke up early on the first morning in the new house, still feeling as if she were dreaming. She walked quietly through the living room, touching the smooth wooden table, the soft sofa, and the light curtains that moved gently in the breeze. The house felt so spacious compared to the small place she used to live in. For a moment, she simply stood by the window, looking at the small garden outside and smiling softly. Behind her, she suddenly heard footsteps. "Tieu Hue, you woke up early," Tuan Anh said, his voice still sleepy but cheerful. She turned around and saw him standing in the doorway wearing simple home clothes instead of his usual elegant CEO suit. In his hand was a box of tools. "You brought tools?" she asked, surprised. Tuan Anh laughed a little. "Of course, we still have a lot to do." Although he was the busy CEO of a large company, at home, Tuan Anh looked more like an ordinary husband learning how to build and fix things. That morning, the two of them began organizing the house together. They opened boxes, arranged books on the shelves, placed small decorations in the living room, and hung soft curtains by the windows. At one point, Tuan Anh stood on a chair trying to install a lamp in the kitchen. He carefully held the screwdriver, concentrating so seriously that Tieu Hue could not help laughing. "What's funny?" he asked, looking down at her. "You look very different from the CEO at the office," she teased gently. Tuan Anh smiled. "That's because here I'm not a CEO. I'm just the man who wants to build a happy home with you." His words made her heart warm. Later that afternoon, they worked together in the kitchen. The kitchen was bright and spacious, with clean counters and new cooking equipment that Tuan Anh had carefully chosen. Tieu Hue began preparing a simple meal, while Tuan Anh washed vegetables beside her. Sometimes he would hand her the wrong ingredient and she would laugh and correct him. Other times he would accidentally splash water on the counter, pretending it was part of the job. The kitchen slowly filled with the comforting smell of warm food. While Tieu Hue was stirring a pot on the stove, Tuan Anh quietly stepped behind her and gently wrapped his arms around her. "This place already feels like home," he whispered. Tieu Hue leaned back slightly against him, smiling as she continued cooking. "Yes," she said softly, "because we're building it together." That evening, when they finally sat down at the dining table for their first meal in the new house, the room felt peaceful and full of life. Outside, the sky slowly turned golden as the sun set behind the garden. Tuan Anh looked around the house and then at Tieu Hue, feeling a deep sense of happiness. The empty house he had built months ago was no longer just a structure of walls and windows. With her laughter, her presence, and the small moments they shared, it had truly become their home. As the days passed, the new house slowly transformed into a warm and peaceful home filled with love and shared memories. Every room began to reflect the life that Tieu Hue and CEO Tuan Anh were building together. The living room held quiet evenings of conversation. The kitchen carried the comforting scent of homemade meals, and the soft light in the bedroom created a calm space where they could rest after long days. What once felt like a brand new house now felt deeply familiar, as if it had always belonged to them. One evening, after finishing a long day of arranging the final pieces of furniture, the two of them stepped outside to the small front porch. The sun had already begun to set, painting the sky with gentle shades of orange and pink. A soft breeze moved through the garden, brushing against the young flowers that Tieu Hue had planted earlier that afternoon. She sat down on the wooden bench, wiping a little dust from her hands after working in the garden. Tuan Anh followed her and sat beside her, stretching his arms slightly as if finally allowing himself to relax after a busy day. "It feels different now," Tieu Hue said softly as she looked around the yard. "What feels different?" he asked. "This place," she replied, her eyes moving slowly across the garden, the porch, and the house behind them. "When we first came here, it felt beautiful but unfamiliar. Now it feels like it truly belongs to us." Tuan Anh looked at her quietly for a moment. The warm light from the house shone through the windows behind them, creating a soft glow around the porch. Hearing her words filled his heart with a quiet happiness that was hard to describe. He gently reached over and held her hand. "That's because this house was never meant to be just a building. It was always meant to be our home." Tieu Hue leaned her head lightly against his shoulder, feeling the peaceful rhythm of the evening. The sounds of the town in the distance were soft and calm, and the sky slowly darkened as the first stars appeared above them. Earlier that day, they had finished planting several small flower beds near the garden path. The soil was still fresh, and the tiny plants looked fragile but hopeful, reaching toward the fading sunlight. Tuan Anh looked at the garden and smiled. "One day, those flowers will grow tall and beautiful," he said. Tieu Hue followed his gaze and nodded gently. "Just like everything else we're building here," she replied. For a moment, they both sat in comfortable silence. The warm light from inside the house spilled onto the porch, and the gentle night air carried the faint scent of fresh earth and young plants. Tuan Anh squeezed her hand softly. "You know," he said quietly, "this house was never meant to be just a gift." Tieu Hue looked at him with curiosity. "Then what is it?" she asked. "It's the beginning of the life we will build together." Hearing those words, Tieu Hue felt a deep sense of peace settle in her heart. The struggles of the past, the small house she once lived in, and all the challenges they had faced together now felt like distant memories. Here, in this new home filled with warmth and light, they were no longer just dreaming about the future. They were living it, side by side, step by step, building a life where love, comfort, and happiness would continue to grow every single day.